Let this be a gentle reminder that even in the busiest moments, there's always time to nourish your mind with books and soothe your soul with tea.
So today we have hibiscus apple cinnamon tea. So we're gonna start it off letting you all know what we're sipping today. And that is none other than the hibiscus apple cinnamon tea by Steepers Only. It is very relaxing. It has fruits such as cranberries, hibiscus flowers, apples, cinnamon, and it has this beautiful bright red color when you steep it. And so that's what we're steeping today. And just to share a customer experience with this tea, my aunt is one of my top customers when it comes to this blend. And she purchased a bunch of bags to share with her neighbors during their block party over the summer. And she apparently she got a lot of good feedback from that, and she continues to order.
So that
Um,
was hot tea for today. And our hot topic is going to be Doechii. So Doechii is a rap artist who is nominated for 4 Grammys. And one of those nominations is for Best Rap Album. And she's the first female artist of the 2020s to be nominated for Best Rap Album. So that's really significant. So we're going to talk a little bit about Doechii's career trajectory and why we stand Doechii on this podcast.
yeah, let's get into Doechii. I think she's a great young up and coming rap artist, and she's doing a lot of big things. She's been on what the Colbert Show. She was on the Breakfast Club, and she just did a Tiny Desk. So she's doing a lot of big things.
I think what I liked about her performance on the Colbert Show was the fact that her and her dancers had their braids interconnected. So when she moved, they would move and they would pretty much move as a unit. So I thought that was pretty cool. And she was saying that her performance was a nod to Black culture. So I just think it's really nice to have someone who's so steeped in, oh, that's a who's steeped Black culture. Um, and yeah, I just think that she's really cool. And I think it will be very, very nice to see her win those Grammys because she's been working really hard.
Yeah, she definitely has. It seems like she's accomplished a lot in her career so far, and she's so young still. So I was reading in Variety magazine that she mentioned that she doesn't want to just be known for one category. She was saying that she can do rap, she can do pop, she can do other genres and still be great.
And I definitely agree. So if you listen to her mixtape, All the Places You'll Go, she was doing more alternative sounds. But if you listen to her mixtape, Alligator Bites Never Heal, she was doing a little bit of melodic rap and then a little bit of singing. So she's very versatile, and it's impossible to place her in any type of box because she has hits like What It Is, and that's more of a melodic rap.
One of my
But
favorite.
also has Crazy, which I love. I loved her performance at the BET Awards where she just like ripped her wig off while performing. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. So that was our hot tea for today. And now we are going to have a book reading by Javanna Plummer of Rebel Media. And she's going to walk us through a chapter of her book, Chaos and Magic.
Father, Father, Winnie O'Coral sang soulfully. She was a temple superstar. Every week, millions of Serenes would visit the temple just to hear her voice. Then they tithed millions in Bessie, which Pastor Okoro loved. It helped him keep the doors open. The Temple of Joya didn't receive hefty endowments from Nomadia like some of the other temples, so Winnie was a blessing. Her voice was like silk as she performed Marvin's music. She hit every note perfectly, leaving some of the congregation in tears. In the audience, John watched as Winnie led the choir in song. Sing a song. She and the alto sang together. By this time, the congregation had joined in and finished the lyrics, full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought. Both groups sang in harmony. When Winnie was finished, the whole congregation was on their feet. Princess Okoro, that was beautiful, John complimented as she returned to her seat. Once church let out, John took Winnie for ice cream, and at a nearby pub, he asked for her hand in marriage. Yes, she answered enthusiastically. Now we're in the present day. Father, Father, John recited as the memory looped in his head. He ran his finger along the pew, and the dust indicated that it hadn't been used in a while. John got one look at the church, and he said, "Burn it down." While everyone was partying at the parade, Anthony was burning Joya's temple. Zola's friends were walking home when they saw the smoke. Did Zoe go to the temple? Zakia asked frantically. No, I think she went to the lake, Joy said. She went to the lake, Dada stated certainly. Truthfully, Dada had gone after Zola, only to discover Zola skipping rocks with Elwin. This hurt Dada a lot, and she didn't have an outlet for that pain, so she buried it. She called up to her friends who were among the many Serenes congregating at the fallen temple. Rue and Air stood in their privy chambers, waiting for the nurse to enter. Gila came in with two plants, one from wheat seeds and one from barley seeds. Both had sprouted within a fortnight. A blessing is coming, Gila announced to the eager royals. Rue and Air stared at each other carefully. I'll leave you all to it, Gila said as she placed the plants down. Once the chamber door shut, Rue wondered, is it a blessing? She looked out the window at the smoke in the distance. Our precious serenity is falling. So that is a little excerpt from chapter 3, which is called Big Black Secrets.
Love it. Yeah, and shout out to you for your vocal ability and carrying the Black National Anthem.
Yeah, I had to do it one time for the culture.
You know, it actually reminds me of when you started off that scene, it reminds me of growing up in Black church and singing that in church. So yeah, I love that ode to the Black National Anthem.
So one thing that I really wanted to do with Chaos and Magic is just highlight the beauty of Black culture. And one of the ways that I did that was incorporating music because I'm a really big music fan. I actually make music myself. And I feel like our oral traditions are not to be repetitive, but they're steeped in our culture. That's the word for today, steep.
Yes. All right, that's our vocabulary word for today. Yeah, I love that that you have taken this sort of fantasy novel, which is a little bit unexpected. Like I was not aware that we were going to be going through a fantasy novel, but it's also very like it's like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and I wanted to create a fantasy novel that was like, it kind of had some ties to urban literature, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily urban fiction because urban fiction, if you saw the movie American Fiction, is typically characterized by stereotypes. But I wanted to move beyond that and paint the beauty and diversity of Black culture.
Yeah, and I think you have done that very well. I had a question about the Serenes. So you do mention that a couple times in this chapter, and then could you just give us some background about the Serenes and who they are?
Yes. So Oculus is a continent within the world. I haven't decided where it's at, but it's similar to the United States and Africa, and it has different countries within it. And one of those countries is Serenity. So the Serenes hail from Serenity, the Shalans hail from Shala, and there are other different territories within Oculus, but the two main focuses of this novel were Serenity and Shala. So we got a little bit of world building.
Yes. Yeah, I just think it's interesting to see too, like how much so in love, of course, King John was with Winnie in the beginning, and then we get that contrast of how he's like, burn the church down, burn it all down, and he seems to have a lot of hatred towards her now.
King John and Winnie, they were together at one point, but Winnie realized that King John was on a power trip. So she ended up escaping their marriage and she left her daughters behind. And she gives him this prophecy that all his daughters will run away from him. So throughout the story, King John is trying to subvert this prophecy, but he can't really do it because of his actions. His daughters are already feeling isolated from their father. I just wanted to give a shout out to Black love, but also to let people know Black love is not always possible, I guess you could say. Sometimes Black love looks like Black dysfunction. And that's something that we have to talk about as a community. So that was a long winded answer, but yeah, those are some of the relationships in the story.
So now we are going to move into 3 under 3. And in this segment, we are going to talk about 3 inspirational women for us on our journeys. And we're going to take 3 minutes to share.
My 3 women, just because I'm thinking about my books and just literature and writing, I would have to say Nikki Giovanni, of course, rest in peace. She just passed away, I think last night. So that she was like a literary foremother to me. I've read her poetry, and her work has inspired me. But I'm also inspired by Toni Morrison. She had this quote that said, if there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. And that really inspired me to write Chaos and Magic. And then finally, Maya Angelou. She just she was a powerful author. Like I loved I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I loved her book of poetry. She had this one poem about Africa, another one about America. So pretty much all of my literary foremothers who are now with the ancestors, those are the women who've inspired me.
Love that. Speaking of Toni Morrison, I'll go into my 3 inspirational women, and I'll start with my grandmother. We called her Dr. Lee. She was a professor of early childhood education here in Chicago. And I remember going to her apartment in downtown Chicago, and she just had all of Toni Morrison's books. She had a collection of her books, and that is how I started to read Toni Morrison. So the Bluest Eye was the first one that I read, and I was able to get it from my grandmother's shelf. But just her being a trailblazer and becoming a professor at a time when it was not all that common for Black people to even go to college. She was definitely inspirational to me. And then my mother, definitely she's an inspiration, being a business owner and entrepreneur. That has definitely, watching her journey has definitely inspired me in my journey and in starting this tea company. And then We were talking about music, so I'll have to say my sister, Sela. She's also an up and coming artist here in Chicago, and just going about that journey is definitely inspirational. She goes by C Soulfully. And yeah, those are my three women. There are a lot more, but those are three for today.
Yeah, we could make this segment like very long, but just today, we just want to give you three women who inspire both of us. And as an honorable mention, you just made me think about somebody who I didn't mention was my grandmother as well. She was a cake
Yeah.
maker, and just watching her bake beautiful cakes, like she decorated them so neatly and so meticulously. So I would say she was an inspiration to me. She didn't have a business, but she did sell her cakes, so I think her business mindset really inspired me. So that is the very first episode of Steep in Stories, but we have so many more stories to give you. Thank you for tuning in and stay tuned for more.
See you on the next one.
Let this be a gentle reminder that even in the busiest moments, there's always time to nourish your mind with books and soothe your soul with tea.